Now here, I had quoted two portions from the Christian scriptures. One is from our Lord's Prayer. Our Lord's Prayer, when the Christians say our Lord's Prayer, they mean Jesus. Now our Lord's Prayer says, in part, "Thou shalt not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Now, what I would like to advise Africa is that Africa should not tempt the greedy people to come and colonize us by being weak. When you are weak, you tempt the greedy. And it is your fault to be weak. Why are you weak? Why do you allow yourself to be weak? The other time when I addressed the South African Parliament, I gave the example. I said, suppose I get drunk with alcohol and I sleep by the roadside. And then because I am asleep, somebody comes and takes my money from my pocket. Whom do you blame? Of course you can blame the thief for not being Christian enough, not take advantage of a drunk man. But the primary responsibility is that I am the one to blame. Why did I make myself so vulnerable? So that's the first point I wanted to make, but in the speech I elaborated. Now again in the Christian Bible, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 6, it says, "The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb." The wolf, the wild animal, will lie with the lamb. Lamb is the young sheep. And the leopard shall lie with the kid. This is the baby of a goat. And the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. That's what it says in the book of Isaiah. That in heaven, you will find a wolf sleeping with the lamb, peacefully. That also a leopard will be together with a calf of a cow. And that all these will be led by a young child. Now, that is in the kingdom of heaven, which the Muslims call Jannah. But we are still here on earth. We have not gone to heaven yet. Here on earth, wolves are still eating lambs. And leopards are still eating cows. And lions are still eating young goats. And certainly a young child cannot lead a lion here on earth. So, what I had come to tell you in my long speech here was about the wolves and the lambs here on earth, not in heaven, because we have not gone there yet. We are still here. So, as long as we are still here, let's deal with the issues out there. Now, Africa is a huge continent. 11.7 million square miles of land, with a population of 1 billion people. 1,033 million now. These 1 billion people are divided into just 4 groups, linguistic groups. Sometimes they tell you that Africans are so different, they are from different tribes, but actually they are divided into just 4 groups. One group is called the Niger-Congo group of languages. These include the Bantu dialects and the Kwa group of languages, the ones of West Africa. That's why I can pick words from here in South Africa while I'm coming from the equator, 5 hours away. The second group are what we call the Nilo-Saharan group of languages. These are the Cushitic, Nilotic, Nilo-Hamitic people. The third group are what we call the Afro-Asiatic. That is Arabic, Tigrinya, and Amharic. And the fourth group are the group here in Southern Africa called the Khoisan. Now, these Africans are either similar, as I've told you about the Bantu speakers, or they are linked, similar or linked. If you study these languages closely, you will find the similarities and also the linkages. Africa is the origin of man. All human beings came from here. You are the original human beings. These Europeans and Chinese and all those fellows whom you see, all those are former Africans who went away. Africa is the cradle of civilization. One of the first human civilizations on earth was the Egyptian civilization, and it was here on the African continent. The 3 great religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, their founders all took refuge here when they had problems in the Middle East. Moses was here in Africa. That's where he survived. That's why he survived. Jesus was brought here as a baby when the Jews wanted to kill him. Muhammad, when his Arabs wanted to kill him, he ran to Ethiopia. That is Africa. Yet, unfortunately, this Africa, by 1900, all of it had been colonized except for Ethiopia. So the question is, this ancient Africa, this Africa which was the beginning of civilization, the source of the human race, why was it colonized? Why? It is because there were internal weaknesses in Africa. When you read my article here, you will see why. There were reasons. Some people trying to say it is because we did not have guns. That's not true. There are examples where people did not have guns, but they were able to defend themselves against these imperialists. China is one of them. When the Europeans went to China, China was backward in terms of technology, but it was able to defend itself against the Europeans. They could not colonize the whole of China. They ended up by taking Hong Kong and Macau, just a few points. China could not be swallowed. It was too big to swallow. Japan could not be colonized, although they were still backward technologically. Still, they could not be colonized by the Europeans. Even Ethiopia, our own Ethiopia, was able to defeat the Europeans, the Italians, in 1896. So therefore, it was not just technology. There were some other weaknesses that enabled the whole of Africa to be colonized. Nevertheless, fortunately, Africans do not die easily. Although the whole continent was colonized, but we survived. We survived colonialism. We survived slave trade. We survived the colonial wars. We survived the European diseases which they brought here. Other people did not survive. If you go to America now, they say there are people who are called Americans. Those are Europeans who went to America to take over the land of the Indians there. These are the ones you call Americans now. The real Americans, if you go there, you find them in national parks. That's where they are found. In reservations. You go and see a few of them. That's how the Indians used to look like. They have disappeared. The Aztecs in Mexico, they are not there, or they are very few. The Incas in Peru, the Aborigines in Australia, they are not there. But for us, we survived. And there are reasons why we survived. Now, I don't have time to go into that, but you should do. You should study that. And in the end, because we survived, we were able to regain our freedom. But regaining our freedom, it was not by accident. It was because of certain factors. Factor number one was the continued resistance of our people. Initially, the resistance was organized by our chiefs, our traditional chiefs, but they failed. Here in South Africa, you know, Shaka and all those groups, Tetsuayo and all those, they tried, but they failed. Eventually, the nationalists came on the scene, organized political parties, and continued the resistance in a modern context. So that was one factor, the continued resistance of the African people. The second factor was the conflict among the Europeans. We were lucky. The Europeans started fighting among themselves because of their greed. Germany, which was a new powerful country, started quarreling with the other old imperialists, said you took too much food. I also want some of that food. And who were the food? Ourselves. You Britain, you took too many colonies. I also want a share. That's how the First World War started. To share us better, because Germany was saying that this sharing is not democratic. I also want a share. Because Germany had already, it had Tanganyika, Rwanda, Burundi, Togo, and then Namibia, and a little bit of Cameroon. So they were saying, no, this is not fair. That's what the Germans were saying. This is not fair. You the British, you have taken too much. We want more share. That's how the First World War started. Now, then the First World War led into the Second World War. Now, because of that, these fellows weakened themselves so much, They had even come to us and mobilized our parents to go and fight their wars for them. They took Ugandans to Burma to fight the Japanese, and the Japanese were so scared of Africans because they said Africans were eating people. And whenever the Africans were on campfire, you know, Africans like singing and dancing at night and making campfires. Then the Japanese would say, you see, Africans are roasting another Japanese. But because of that conflict, the Europeans weakened themselves. But what is crucial is that by the end of the Second World War, they were very, very weak. The European countries were very weak. But still they tried to cling on to the colonies. Even after the Second World War, they tried to cling on to the colonies. You remember the French tried to go back to Indochina, and they had to be defeated by the Vietnamese. So that was the second factor how we got our freedom. First of all, our continued resistance. But secondly, the fight among themselves. The third factor was the support from the socialist countries, from China, from the Soviet Union. That was the third factor. We were lucky. In 1917, a big country known as Russia was taken over by communists. These communists did not agree with the imperialists. They had a different opinion. And yet they were now controlling this big country called Soviet Union. So they started supporting us because they had a conflict with the imperialists. Then in 1949, China also was taken over by communists. And they also started supporting us. You people here in Southern Africa, you know this. Who was training ANC? Show me one soldier of ANC who was trained in the West. Just one, I don't want 2 or 3. Just one. You would get some little support from the West, demonstrations on the streets. There was an anti-apartheid committee in London, but there was nobody gave us any weapons, nobody trained us to fight. The ones who trained us were the Russians, were the Chinese, were the Cubans. Cubans are the ones who came and contributed. So that was the third factor that caused us to get our freedom. Now, unfortunately, and because of those pressures, first of all in Asia, Indonesia got independence. Because we were not alone that time, we were also with the Asians. The Asians were also colonized with us. So because of the Second World War, by the end of the Second World War, Indonesia had got independence. 1947, India got independence. Pakistan. Then later on, in Africa here, the first country to get independence was Ghana, 1957. But also in Africa here, we had to fight Mau Mau in Kenya. And Sudan, 1956. But the problem is that after we got our independence, we did not analyze why we had been colonized in the first place, and then quickly rectify what had caused us to be colonized in the first place. When we got independence, we just relaxed. Uganda here, Kenya there, Sudan there, just relax. Started enjoying being in power. Forgetting that here, wolves are still eating lambs. Now, what is happening now? You have seen you saw the problem of Libya. Libya, our late friend Muammar Gaddafi had his issues. I fought Gaddafi twice because he intervened in our affairs. 1972, because he was supporting Idi Amin. He was saying that Idi Amin is a Muslim and he's supporting a Muslim. Yes, Idi Amin was a Muslim, but an idiot also. Are there no idiot Muslims? There must be some idiot Muslims. So in 1972, Muammar Gaddafi sided with Idi Amin, and we had to fight him. I fought Muammar Gaddafi. 1979, again, he intervened on the side of Idi Amin. We had to fight him again. But in the end, we made peace with Gaddafi. And he had his issues, he had his ideas. Sometimes we would agree with him, sometimes we would not agree with him. Now, when this problem of Libya started, the African Union, with our chairman, who is here now, this gentleman here, they formed a committee of a few of us. I think we were 6. I was one of them. The whole of the African Union gave that committee a mandate to look for a solution for the Libyan problem. Now, on one occasion, I didn't go that time. These excellencies, this one here, Jacob Zuma, and the others, I was not there, but my minister was among them. They entered a plane in Nouakchott, in his place. They were going to Libya to mediate. And they were told by NATO to go back. Yes. Said, you go back. Yes, he's here. If I'm telling lies, I'm not the one who invited him, you're the one who invited him. African presidents on an African mission over African soil were ordered by NATO to go back. That NATO has not allowed them to land in Libya. Now, we call this in Swahili, dharau, contempt. This is contempt. So now you can weigh yourselves now. Your presidents were ordered by NATO. 6 of them, not one. If it was only 7, maybe you could say. Six excellencies, African excellencies, were ordered, go back. Over Africa. Now, these fellows didn't listen to us. They continued. They killed Gaddafi. Now Libya is in tatters. Up to today. And the problem did not only end in Libya, it went into Mali, it has gone now into Chad. The whole area is in flames. Egypt, yes. So now you see where you are. You were weak. Because of your weakness, you are colonized. Fortunately, we survived. And by a combination of factors, we got our freedom again. But we did not use our freedom to make ourselves stronger. We remained where we were. And now, the former colonialists are coming back to continue where they had left off.